Galactic Standard Date. Year 11356. Day 93. Sol Standard Date 4 for the 5th, 3267. Basilisk stopped and looked to his charges.
We're here. We will be shielded upon opening the rift, just in case. So don't worry if you see something we shouldn't be able to stand in. You can, in fact, stand in it.
He looked back to his front and pulled apart the space in front of him. What greeted them was an orbital view of a ruined planet. Basilisk looked to Razeni.
Where is your capital located? I will try to find survivors there.
Razeni pointed as she choked up at the sight of her ancestral home as it smoked, no longer even burning. Basilisk looked at Amaranth, nodded, and then held his sword out in front of him before saying, Reta, and then Turu, and then going from 0 to seemingly 1,000 in less than a second. Basilisk flew towards the spot that Razeni had marked. As he flew down, he could make out a sprawling city, but all the buildings were a mix of black and green. He worried for a moment that it may be too late for them, until he saw the telltale flashes of explosions. Somebody was still putting up a fight. As he levelled out over the city, he decided that subtlety wouldn't work in his favour here, so he may as well opt for the loud and distracting route. He floated towards the city centre, hanging above the buildings. As he observed the desolation, he built up a mass of veil energy. When he reached the centre, he muttered, Maktayond! The city shook with the sound of a sharp intake of breath, before Basilisk's amplified voice rang out through the entire 7-kilometre city.
Mel, I've come to stick my sword where the sun don't shine again. If you don't send your peasant hentai monsters after me, I will find you before long. So either send your Azerian monsters, and hide like the little bitch you are, or come and get fucked up with some dignity. After all, you can't even take control of time away from us. Some fucking god you are, huh? Lost your only job to some apes who were smacking rocks together to make sparks because they were pretty. Ha! Fucking loser. The city fell into a deathly silence as Basilisk began to burn with green veil fire so brightly that he looked like a miniature sun. A single beam of green light began the massacre as it evaporated a mini Azerian. Ket was on his last legs as he fended off 3 of the minor monsters. They were only around 6 foot tall, so they were easier to manage than the massive beasts that were raking buildings away and flinging them into the city. Still, he was only a young man in the militia when the Azerian struck. Untrained though he was, his specific species of Razeri was abnormally large, which gave him the advantage of being able to field weapons that belonged in an armoured vehicle. Kekt turned towards the nearest Azerian and let loose with his main cannon that was an old recoilless slug thrower chambered in 18mm shells, loaded with mission-variable ammunition. The diminutive Azerian exploded into chunks as the explosive AP round tore into the fleshy monster and exploded. He backstepped as the cannon loaded another round. The second Azerian reached his barbed tentacles out and wrapped Kekt's front leg. Just as the barbs started to dig in, another shell smacked into and through the fanged maw of the Azerian. Kekt readied his 4 vibroblades and stood on his 4 hind legs. He slashed wildly at the incoming tentacles, lopping off most of what neared, yet a barbed tentacle or 2 would make it through every few seconds and latch onto him. With each barb that hit him, he felt drowsier and drowsier. As he began to lose consciousness, he heard a shrill intake of breath, and the Azerian stopped to stare up. Kekt followed the vision of the Azerian, and saw what could only be described as the god of death, perched above their city. Have I not noticed? When did he arrive? No, does this mean I am passing? If one can see the Reaper, then are they passing, yes? Oh, fuck. No. Don't let the sleep take you, Kekt. He struggled to move around and pull off the tentacle still lashed to him as he screamed, Fuck! Fuck you, you dumb fucking bag of tentacles and bullshit! When he had finished pulling off the tentacles to prevent further poisoning, he shakily tried to level the barrel of his cannon at the Azerian that was still staring at the Reaper. Right before he pulled the trigger, the Azerian let out a shrill scream and flew at the Reaper with a rage he hadn't seen in the monsters before. Then he saw a beam of pale green light envelop the Azerian and completely atomize it before it slammed into the ground in front of Kekt, burning a 3-foot-deep hole into ferrocrete. He stood there, dumbfounded, as the ground smouldered less than a foot from his face. He lost the strength in his legs and dropped to the ground, rolling over towards the apparent light show that the Reaper had begun. He said a silent prayer, hoping for the death of all the Azerians before sleep took him. Queen Razaria was at the briefing table wondering what had her general so spooked after all this time. Is it their leader? Do we have any visuals on this creature at all? General Brands clicked his tongue,
and slid over grainy video taken from a militiaman's headcam. Razaria hit play and stared at it. This can't be the leader of these things. Its aesthetic is completely different. It looks like a being straight out of the Veil. We only have a small amount of knowledge on beings who have been into the Veil, and they all have the same reports. The Veil changes the being's body into one suiting the death-like environment of the Veil. It is the land of the dead, after all. Also, if I look a little closer, it does seem to bear a resemblance to that Terran Emperor. Though as grainy as the video is, I can clearly see that this being is winged, while the Emperor was not. She watched as he destroyed an Azarian that had escaped the grasp of the militia soldier. Why again are you so worried about this creature? He clearly announced that he wanted to defeat the Master of the Monsters. Why would that Master go through such lengths to use deception, when he clearly has us overpowered? We're grossly outgunned and this beam may just turn the tide. We'll wait for a time, but I hold faith that he will be on our side. Brands put his head in his hands and shook his head in disbelief. So, you're saying that you believe our hero has jumped in at the last possible moment to save us, that this is some kind of storybook? Could be pessimistic, but I can't just see this being as a good thing. Even if he fights the Azarians off, who's to say that he doesn't just want to enslave us or eat us himself, and these things were just in his way? What kind of concessions will he ask for? Whatever, do as you wish. Raziria cracked a smile and pointed to one of the guards. You! Take this camera and try to capture the action. It would seem as though the Azarians are preoccupied now. The guard shakily took the camera, and slowly bowed before trudging out to perform as needed.